background and why I was actually really excited about working with you. Over my 10 years, we've had different people come in and talk about marketing or development, and I think we were just in this other meeting where we were talking about marketing, and parents said, use the word outreach, don't use marketing. And anytime we use this business term, our community and us as teachers always feel a little bit like, about that. We're not marketers, we're teachers. And also I've been in things where we've been talking about marketing and I'm like, it's like grabbing smoke. Or even development as like, well, how do you make that authentic? And when we met with Dan, who by the way came to us through Diana Glass and her job, I was like, he said something like, I can understand what he's saying and it makes sense, like right away. So, and then secondly, I learned that you had a long time as a teacher and admissions director and things like that. So you have a marketing degree, but he also has a lot of experience working in schools. And now you have a tutoring center with kids who do mostly around executive function, is that right? So I thought, okay, this is someone who like has for us, some street credibility about working with kids and family and admissions and all those things. And so the other thing, he was just meeting for a good chunk of the day with Cindy and me and BJ when we were doing, Cindy like translated everything that we do. And the good news was he came and said, we're actually from the admissions office doing a really good job, but now it's like about fine-tuning. And it's always hard when you're fine-tuning because you're like, oh, I already do that. But so I think from that conversation we were like, oh, okay, there's an interesting idea. How do we sit with that and think about that rather than react and say, no, we already do that. And even with Sarah Ward yesterday, I think because we're good educators, it's easy to quickly say, no, we do that, or that's too hard. And so I guess my pitch to you is to listen, and because it's a little bit uncomfortable for us, this realm, and kind of sit with it before passing judgment on it. And with that, I'm not sure exactly what you're going to say, but we just came from a meeting with parents and things, and right away they're like, yeah, but. And so just from my experience, but once you get past the yeah, but, then you're like, oh, okay, I could do a little bit of that. So, all right.
Thank you.
There you go.
So you guys, this typically goes about 60 minutes. So I'm going to try to do it in 45, but can you just give me a 15-minute heads up and then a 10-minute heads up, and I'll push through if I need to.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, thanks for having me here. I'm going to skip these first two slides. This is what Ed was saying. Please give me just a blank slate. Talking about customer service, and I'm going to talk about, you can call it any other gazillion different names, okay? I know that as teachers, we don't necessarily like to think of ourselves as marketers, okay? Or as someone delivering a product. But at a private school, an independent school, that's what we're doing. I think from my experience so far, this is a pretty amazing place. And the faculty I've met so far, we've done a little bit of work together. Pretty great faculty. So everything here, I think a lot of it you're doing already. This is just, you know, when Ed said, it's a nice compliment when he said like, wow, I get what he's saying, okay? None of this is rocket science, okay? It doesn't, you don't have to be, you know, from MIT to understand this stuff. What I like to do though, is just kind of point out the obvious in maybe an interesting or more interesting way that you can kind of grab onto. There might be a nugget or two that you learn and that you can apply in your classroom or your interactions with parents tomorrow, which would be wonderful as well, okay? But I don't want you to be thinking that the reason we're doing this thing on customer service is because we're not good at it, because that's not the case. You are very good at it. You're very good at it. This just take that as, all right, let's see if we can get a few more nuggets and get even stronger. Make sense? Okay. So, Fayerweather's commitment is to fulfill its mission and vision of knowing each child, engaging each child's intellect, imagination, an awakening sense of social responsibility, and a commitment to diversity. Okay? The other big commitment is ensuring the school's financial security and future. Okay? We're doing a lot of talking about word of mouth outreach. Like that? Word of mouth outreach. Okay? What leads to good word of mouth? The experience parents and students have at the school. And that's what we're talking about today. And what does that lead to then? Financial security for the school. A few more enrollments means that things ripple through in different ways. Okay? So, oh sorry you can't see that. Arose by any other name. A name is just for a name. You can call it internal marketing, you can call it parent relations. I call it customer service, just out of the business world, but it really doesn't matter what you call it. The key is the way we treat families, both current families and prospective families, has an impact on our ability to attract and retain families at this school. That's the bottom line. That's customer service. Just the way we interact with people really affects things. So we talk about, well, I'm a teacher, I'm not really a marketer. Every school employee is a marketer. I spoke to Reggie on the phone twice today, okay? A live person answering the phone in a friendly way, putting me on hold to go find Ed so I could have that conversation. Customer service. That was fantastic. I didn't have to wait 45 minutes to talk to Ed. I knew that we were under the gun. Reggie went and got him. That to me is outstanding customer service. And not only that, a live person answered the phone. How many times do you call a business and you don't get a live person answering the phone, right? Excellent customer service. So every employee, top to bottom, is a marketer. The other thing to remember is every interaction is marketing, whether we want it to be or not. Please raise your hand in a second if you can remember back to a time in your childhood when an adult said something to you, okay? They didn't mean to be hurtful, but was hurtful, and it still sticks with you today. Does anyone have that experience? Just raise your hands. Okay, don't be that person in one of these kids' lives. That it's an important piece, right? Every interaction is marketing. Every interaction we have with parents and with kids sticks with us and goes home with them, right? And if we want to have that feel-good atmosphere, just keep that in mind as you're going through your day. So a few important data points I like to share, just when we're thinking about things here. In face-to-face communication, body language reflects 55% of the message you're delivering, tone 38%, and your actual words only 10%. Okay? So when you're talking to someone face-to-face, like this, and with a scowl, that's 55% of the message is coming from how you appear. Okay? And they're not really listening to your words. Important to know. In telephone communication, 86% is reflected from tone. Right? They can't see you. So do they hear sunshine in your voice, or do they hear that you're angry and annoyed? Right? That affects that communication. Your words only 14%. And then in emails, it's virtually impossible to pick up tone, so please be careful. How many people in this room have sent an email, hit send, and been like, ugh, I did not want to send that? Come on. Everybody's done that, right? It's like you start to sweat. You're like, I can't believe I sent that. How am I going to get it back? Right? It's very difficult to pick up tone in email. So as you're emailing parents, just proofread. Look at it from the outside. How might this person respond to this? Because you don't want to have that like, oh my God, that's not what I meant to say and it came out in the wrong way. Okay, something to think about. So customer service defined. Customer service to me means delivering a strong product, which we do. Delivering on our promises. Okay, if we say we're going to do something, we need to do something. We need to delight the customer. And the customer in this case is the family, the student, and the mom and dad. Paying attention to details. Communicating effectively with our customers. Growing relationships. And understanding that every interaction matters. Those to me are the key pieces of outstanding customer service. Has anyone read this book, The Ultimate Question? Okay, it's a newer book, and it's a way of thinking that essentially says what we're trying to get to is this. This is the ultimate question. How likely is it that you would recommend Fayerweather to a friend or colleague? That's it. When you do your market research, when you're talking to your parents, forget how do you like the math program, how do you like the theater program, how do you like this, how do you like that. When these guys argue, I'm not suggesting we take that out. I'm just saying what these guys argue is, what we're trying to get to is, how likely is it that you would recommend this school to a friend? Okay? And you want the answer to be very likely. Okay? And by delivering on those customer service pieces, you're going to get a lot of positive recommendations. okay? And then they follow it up with what is the primary reason for the score you just gave us. That gives you the information that you need to go forward. We call them promoters, passives, and detractors. Your promoters need to be higher than your detractors. You get a score, and then however you rank on that scoring is where you are, and it gives you your benchmark to then work towards it. I'm not suggesting the school engaged in this process, but I did want to point out this question. I think that's the bottom line of what we're trying to get to. Is your child having a good experience? Would you recommend the school to someone else? And hopefully the answer is going to be yes. So let's talk about excellent customer service versus poor customer service. And I'm going to ask you to break up into groups of maybe 2 or 3 and have this discussion. Is that okay? Right? I'm going to give you some parameters. First, please think of an example of a time when you feel you received excellent customer service. What made it excellent? How did it make you feel? Okay? And then let's start there. I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to come back and share. Okay? Go. So, all right, who can share something they learned about a good customer service experience? I'd like to know what it was, but more importantly, what made it excellent, and how did it make you feel? Who's willing to share? Please.
I had a great interaction with Fidelity. It's a huge company. I called in, I got a person right away. I was shocked.
That's amazing.
I don't have any money in the company because we had just taken all of our money out, but we needed information for taxes. And the guy stayed with me till I got everything I needed. He said, you know what, it'd be easier if you just call me back because I already know you, so let me give you my extension. And then for 3 days, I kept calling him back until it was completely resolved. I was shocked.
How did it make you feel?
I was so happy. I love Fidelity. I keep telling people.
I want to put my money back.
I feel bad now. I didn't put it back.
Right on. Thank you. Well, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you. Who else wants to share? Yes, please.
So I left a Fayerweather library book at this blood drive where I was donating blood, but Red Cross was just coming in to the place, the Somerville Armory, and they weren't really connected. So then I called a couple days later, I left that library book there, I'm sure it's not going to be there. Or they will say, well, that's not our, thing. And they would just bend over backwards to look for it, to, make sure it was there. They were super friendly, and it was kind of the opposite of what I expected because they didn't have any stake in it or any, and I definitely was like, oh, this is such a nice place, and look at this little cafe, and they're so friendly, and I want to go back there.
Okay, so interesting. Made you feel very happy. He went above and beyond what you think he normally should have done, right? Or what you would have expected, right? What you expected. And here's a case where you thought this was lost, but I'll give it a shot. And these people went out of their way to make sure that you got your book back.
Right.
How did that make you feel?
Amazed, great. One, like, oh, it's worth trying, but also just, very friendly towards
Restores
them.
your faith in humanity.
Yeah.
Right. Anyone else want to share one? Please.
Anna said one that was very nice.
You can go next.
No. No, I'll say the one that Anna said. Anna said one that I guess we all use at least once in our life, and it's AAA.
And you're in danger, so you feel very vulnerable, but they always come, and they always fix it, and you never feel that they fix you, and you're safe again. And I always feel so grateful, and I'll always use it.
You feel grateful,
Yeah.
and they built a customer for life. That's just by doing what? Delivering on their promise, right? Of delivering what they say they're going to deliver. That's amazing. Okay, thank you.
I took my bike to a bike store, and I sort of think of like sometimes people are kind of pretentious at bike stores, and they were super friendly, and they're like, oh yeah, we have that part, and I felt like it was a totally obscure part. And when they went in the basement, and they got it, and they're like, well, we wouldn't take your bike, but we have like space for purple bikes, and so then I felt really special. Like purple, and I couldn't talk about anything else.
But you couldn't talk about
I
anything
didn't want to
else.
go. Yeah, I didn't want to.
What was it?
Raise my bike to go there. It's called Hub.
Oh yeah.
And you send your friends there.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
I said,
And you can speak passionately and positively about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay, so what do we take away from these positive interactions? Throw out some words. I know I already recounted them, but maybe you guys can.
Grateful.
Grateful. What else did we hear?
Safe.
Safe, above and beyond, special,
Unexpected.
unexpected,
Happy.
happy,
Stays with you.
stays with you, right? It lingers. Yes.
I have a question.
Oh yes.
Okay. So it's interesting, like those examples, all the expectations were very low. I wonder if we see the difference between this group where the expectations are very high. Is there a difference then, or is...
I think the difference is it becomes more difficult for us to over-deliver, but we still need to strive to over-deliver, right? You're right. But if you go to dinner at the Capitol Grill, right, versus an Outback Steakhouse, you have a different expectation. No, I'm just saying, like, right? You have a different expectation of what you're going to get. These guys still have to strive to deliver outstanding customer service, even though you expect less from these guys. Okay.
They were all based on the personal, not the product. It wasn't the bike. It wasn't that car being fixed. It was people feeling safe or grateful or paying attention to. There's a lot of that stuff.
I would say in Anna's case, probably consistency, like she feels like it's every time.
That's great. Great point. Yes.
You know, one thing that I love is when someone apologizes, and you call up because something's not working right, and they apologize, it goes a long way.
So we're going to get to that, but it's a wonderful point, right? When you're angry, right, and you're just ready to rip in, and they say, listen, our mistake, I am so sorry, let me see, it just totally like reduces everything, and you're like, all right, I was ready for a fight, right? And like, it just disarms everything. Sometimes, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, but sometimes that kind of just disarming then opens up a much better conversation and interaction where they feel they're going to get better service. So,
Unless they don't say it the right way.
fair enough.
They
Fair
say,
enough.
oh, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm sorry. All right.
But
We're gonna turn it negative now. We're gonna turn it negative. I'd like you to think of a time when you received poor customer service and share that with your cohort. But also think about what made it poor and how did that make you feel. Okay? Go. Here's the first important thing to notice. Okay? It was much louder, but B, it took us a lot longer to come back and to stop. Now, I got some data that I'm going to share with you that confirms that. But for whatever reason, we're much more passionate about the negative than we are about the positive. And that's an important thing to remember when we're delivering customer service, right? People like to talk about the negative. There's some energy for whatever. It's a psychological thing. I don't know what it is. But there's something about wanting to share the negative. So let's share some negative, okay? I'd love to hear from folks a bad experience and how it made you feel going through it. Go ahead.
So it has to do with car repair. So I brought my car in for repair. So we were in line. So there's one person ahead of me, that's me, and two more people came in afterwards. So they took care of the person in front of me, and then they called the person that was behind me to be serviced. I didn't say anything. I just let it go. And then when I went up, when they called me, and then I went up. I said, and you know, I was in front of the person that you called behind, and his answer to me was, well, I'm taking care of you now. So I said, well, first thing is, I do not appreciate that you took that person ahead of me, and your answer was very rude. Because not only did you take him ahead of me, you're telling me, well, I'm taking, that's not, I do not appreciate that answer. I left my car there, you know, I left the car. And to make matters even worse, when I went back to pick up the car, the quote that they had given me was just totally, like, much bigger than when I went to pick up the vehicle. So I haven't gone back, and that's like almost 3 years ago. I have not gone back, and that's where I've always taken the car to be serviced. So I've not gone back there, and I'm trying to not have to go back there unless I have no option.
How long ago that happened?
Like 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Do you feel the passion? Seriously, 3 years ago, right? This stuff sticks with us when we have that kind of negative interaction, all right? And how did it make you feel?
Oh, I felt awful. Awful in the sense that the first thing I thought was, okay, it was a gender thing, it was a racial thing, so all the biases just
Right,
came
just came.
right to surface.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. 3 years, just festering. And I'm sure this is not the first time you've talked about it.
Probably.
Who else will share a negative? Yes, please.
So I had to deal with Comcast for almost 6 months because the internet didn't work. And I was serious too. Yeah, I don't know what it is about them, but anyway, every time I called, I had to talk to someone new, and every time I had to re-explain my problem, and every time they gave me the same solution, and then I had to explain, well, that didn't work, and then I felt like they were talking to me like this dumb young girl who doesn't know anything about the internet. Like, well, is it tightened up? And I was like, are you out of your mind? Anyway, like 5 months in is when I got my first apology, and yeah, then I went, above and beyond and threatened them. That didn't work either.
Are you still using Comcast?
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. the internet in my office,
Probably.
it's a disaster. But going through and getting Verizon, it's like, oh, I can't even deal with it. How did it make you feel?
Like I was like one of 500 million customers that mattered nothing to them. I have no intelligence.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very frustrating. One more? Yes.
I had a couple, and it was funny because I didn't have one for the first question, so it goes to yours. Yeah. I took my son in for a haircut, and she jacked his head off. That was like my best way to say it. It was like wonky, and so it was happening, and he's like, "Mom, come over here." And I was like, "What kind of thing is that?" Or so anyway, at the end of it, I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" And he's very polite. He said, "Thank you." And I was like, "You don't have to say thank you for what just happened to your head." And she was like, "You don't have to tip me." And I was like, "On what planet would I tip you for what just like transpired?" And she was just like, "Oh, sorry." I'm like, I don't know. Did that just get away from you? What happened? Like, what is that? Like, and then so then I like, so bad I paid and walked out, and then I was like, what? I just paid for that? So then I was like, oh no. And then I went back in. I was like, oh, now I'd like my refund. And they're like, okay, here you go. And we call you. Someone will call. And I was like, great. I would love to talk about this more.
Did they call?
A couple times. I didn't answer. I was like, bye-bye.
Okay. That was credit to them for at least trying.
No.
You didn't see his hair.
I give them credit.
No, but the first thing you have to say is the beautiful hair.
Yeah.
So that,
It's grown out nicely.
Okay. So how did it make you feel? Angry?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it super cut?
Yes, it was. And you have to pay but yeah, it made me also sort of like my expectation. My expectation was that she knew how to cut hair.
Fair.
She did not meet my expectation.
That's right.
Can I just, is this a positive one? Can I quickly share?
Sure.
Well, my son had to get teeth pulled this summer, so he went into the oral, whatever you call it, mouth surgeon. And the guy brought out at the end of, sent him home with a bag of a quart of ice cream. And then he called, that night at like 6 o'clock at night just to check on him and make sure everything was okay. and
Awesome.
stuff. So-
Wow.
Fantastic. Okay, so we see the difference between how the positive experiences make us feel and the not so positive experiences make us feel. I think it's important just to kind of have that out there, just to make it top of mind, so when you're dealing with a parent, you just kind of keep that in your mind. So here are some elements of excellent customer service. Deliver on promises, right? We talked about that, or not, right? Delivering on promises, or you should be able to get on the internet when you're paying for it, right? They're not delivering on their promise. Remember that you'll be judged by what you do, not what you say. Okay, you can say anything. You can say we have the fastest internet speed in the nation, but then you don't find out, which I found out the hard way Friday night, 10 o'clock in the office trying to fix our internet, that I had to ask to get bumped up to the highest internet speed in the nation. And by the way, it's an extra $100 more a month to get them. Okay, no. Right, no, it's crazy. But what I'm saying is, it's what you do, not what you say you do. Okay, and that's an important piece. Be honest and forthright, right? You don't want to feel that someone's swindling you, right? Find ways to delight your customers. Sending him home with a bag of ice cream, okay? That's delighting your customer. It's such a simple thing. What did that cost them? $4, right? And how much did you pay? A ton, right? I mean, like, that is such a small gesture that wins over a family for life, right? Be helpful and anticipate needs, right? So we talked about this guy anticipated she might have more questions. I'm going to give her my direct dial line so she can get back to me, right? That's anticipating needs, especially if there's no immediate profit in it. There was no profit. You told them, my money's out,
Yeah.
right? So he's working on a customer who's left, and he's still doing it. Always take that extra step. It's recognized and it matters. Exceed parent expectations. I'm sure we do this. I'm just asking you to keep it top of mind, and if you can do one extra thing a week to exceed the parents' expectations, you're going to win fans very quickly. Treat each family, each parent as an individual. Okay, we're not saying this group of people, and this group of people. Whatever your issue or concern is, it's personal. So let's deal with it on a personal level. And be a good listener. I want to talk about the anatomy of being a good listener. Okay, because I think that's important. Listen carefully. Be engaged. Okay, ways to be engaged. Ask questions. Right. Clarify. Your body language tells you a lot. Sitting, like this while someone's telling you this, like really simple. Whoa. Wait. Hey, we there?
Yeah.
See what happens when you sit like this? Remove all other distractions, right? Like turn off the phone. Put your cell phone in your pocket, okay? Turn off your monitor. Acknowledge and clarify. That always let someone know you're listening and that you're caring and that you're thinking about it, about what they're saying. Even if it's hard to hear, right? And some of the stuff is hard to hear, but just taking it in. Take a deep breath, just taking it in. We're going to figure this out. I'm going to help them through this. Explain your next step. Here's what I'm going to do based on what we just talked about. Here's what I'm going to do. And then, by the way, I'm going to follow up with you. And we use the word loop. Close the loop. Loop. It should be a word that should be out there for everybody. I'm going to send it to Webster's. I think that it's really important if you say to a parent, here, listen, I'm going to check into that. Give me 48 hours. I'm going to get back to you. Make a note to get back to them. Right? It's the way we'd want to be treated outside of here or even here, right? That you want someone to close the loop and circle back and not make you have to remember, I have to go ask this person 20 times to get the answer, okay? So these are some ways of being a good listener. Know how to apologize, okay? We all make mistakes. We need to own them and we need to fix them. So I am so sorry. I entirely understand what you're saying, and let me see what I can do to help make this better for you. Okay? It's a lot different than like, sorry, right? Than that sorry. Okay? I like to say take responsibility and take action. Okay? Be welcoming. Make sure parts of your school that parents see are clean, safe, and comfortable. Right? We all do this in our own home, right? Or on our desk, right? We no longer see the piles and like the mess that's there because it's just part of like the scenery now. Look at it from an outsider's perspective to say when someone walks into my classroom, what are they seeing, right? And does it give confidence that this is an organized, safe, comfortable place to go to school? Make every day a good day. People do not know if you're swamped, feeling overwhelmed, or just having a bad day. Anybody. Right? When you call Comcast, when you call AAA, when you call Fidelity, when you go to the car service, his girlfriend might have broken up with him the night before. Not your problem, right? Not your problem. Whether it's 8 a.m. or 5 p.m., we must treat each person as if they're the most important interaction of the day. Okay? I know that sometimes that's hard, right? And that's fine. No one's perfect at this. But just keeping that in mind, that people don't know that you got no sleep last night because your child was out vomiting the whole night. Right? Nor do they do care. I'm not going to say they don't care, but they need to solve their problem for their child, and you're their teacher. And then we like to say, have sunshine in your voice always. It's that tone. Okay? The more sunshiny you can be, they say like when you're on the phone, smile when you're on the phone, and it comes through in a more positive way. That's an important piece. Some final pieces. Keep parents informed don't air your dirty laundry, okay? Meaning, there's going to be pockets of things that are making you unhappy. You're welcome to have those conversations and then do something productive with them, hopefully, like go to Ed or go to the supervisor or whatever. Just try not to do it in front of parents is the point. Because they don't want to hear the internal turmoil of what's going on with their child's school. They want to think that everything is rosy and wonderful and everyone gets along. So let's keep up that facade. That was a joke. Providing quality customer service does not mean you must say yes to every customer request. I want to be very clear on that, right? People can ask for very outlandish things. You don't have to say, well, if they ask for it, I'm going to deliver it, okay? Like, be thoughtful about it. It's how you handle that request and how you say no that's important, okay? So deliver a difficult message to a parent or a coworker in a caring manner that shows you were listening and thoughtful about your response, okay? And this is the apology. An apology is not always necessary. It's not always necessary. It certainly works to diffuse if you know you've made a mistake. If you know you've made a mistake, own it, accept it, I'm going to fix it, here's what I'm going to do. But you don't always have to apologize. You can be firm, but just be sensitive to how they're feeling. Okay? And that just makes someone feel that you're having a good grown-up conversation. Okay? So Starbucks was for a long time known for their service. And this is the part I wanted to point you to. We touch and interact with our customers directly. Our product is not sitting on a supermarket shelf like a can of soda. Our people have done a wonderful job of knowing your drink, your name, and your kids' names. This is what happens at Fayerweather. No, seriously. We know each individual child, right? We know all their quirks. We know all the stuff that they do. This was their core philosophy, okay? We are also not like a supermarket with a product on a shelf. We are an interactive community, right? But doing what you're doing so well, that's like we talked about at the beginning in your mission, it's fantastic. Benefits of good customer service, a positive atmosphere in your school. People always like to connect to something positive. Trust and confidence in you in your school. Lasting relationships. And then admission referrals and strong word of mouth. Happy parents make our best marketers. Okay? And we're doing a lot of talk about how to be a good word of mouth advocate for the school, and I'm actually going to do a little bit of that with you here right now in a minute. But if people feel good about the interaction they're having with the faculty and staff at the school, they're going to then feel good about the experience their kids are having. They're then going to be going out and telling their friends what a wonderful place it is. And the nice thing is, we're not looking for like 70 new kids. There are schools out there that are like half the size they should be. You guys are looking for 10, 15, maybe more students. But there's no major issue. There's not a crisis. It would be nice to fill those extra seats and get more kids to have a Fayerweather education, right? If we can get our parents out there talking positively, those 15 seats will go very quickly. They'll fill very quickly. Because people want to be a part of something like that, where people are so passionate about it they want to talk about it. Consequences of poor customer service. Let's look at the other side. Poor word of mouth. Does that lead to referrals? No. Frustrated and unhappy parents, which might lead to attrition, which leads to lower student enrollment, and we know what happens as student enrollment declines. It feels like a negative, unhelpful atmosphere at your school, and this is an important point. It costs 5 times as much to attract and enroll a new family than it does to retain a current family. Right? So by delivering an outstanding product and by meeting the needs of our kids and their families, we're actually doing, this is much simpler than going out and trying to find new families. Yes?
And I would even, I'm going to guess just from our own experiences, when you write cost 5 times, that's actual dollars.
Correct.
But I think our emotional energy and all that it takes, like to undo bad interaction or family leaving, like there's, which is just our self-benefit, just like coming to work and feeling positive. So I have to undo something. It takes a lot of energy.
Costs. The number of costs.
Costs.
Okay.
And at times also have a negative domino effect. So I think that's another part to that.
The negative domino effect with just
Other
Currency.
families also
totally.
even as
Totally. Okay, so let's talk about positive word of mouth for a second. I'm just going to give you some interesting data, just so you know this. How are people communicating about products and services? These are adults. 84% via face-to-face communication, 35% via social media, 58% via email, 19% via mobile messaging. This is a 2011 study, so it's probably changed a little bit. But when you look at young adults, the next group, these are the kids in their 20s, okay? They're going to be having kids in the preschool and in kindergarten soon. How are they communicating about products and services? 77% via face-to-face, 56% via social media, 50% via email, and almost 50% via mobile messaging, okay? So what's interesting to me is, yeah, these numbers have changed, okay? But this number is relatively stable. People are still communicating face-to-face about products and services. That's why word-of-mouth marketing is so critically important, and why I'm urging it to be kind of your undercurrent of all of your marketing efforts. And one of the ways we do that is to deliver an outstanding product. I'm going to skip this stuff because I want to get to the other stuff. Okay. Here, you saw the little animation. Want to see it again?
We've been talking about that for months.
75%, like national, okay, of people who enroll in an independent school come via word of mouth. 75%. But there are schools that have 95% that come via word of mouth. Okay, I'm not exactly sure yet where we are at this school. We could be, this is an average. We could be at 65%. We could be at 85%. But anything that we can do to bump that, that's why people are gonna come visit, is because of positive word of mouth. They're gonna hear something good about the school. They're gonna hear about a great experience, and they're gonna be like, you know what? I want to check that out for my child as well. Okay. So what does it take to be a strong advocate? I urge folks to be authentic, passionate, and most importantly, positive. Okay? Can you just say that with me once? Authentic, passionate, and positive. Okay? Most importantly, positive. Okay? The key to, we're going to do a little exercise here, but the key to this is, if you can be authentic, passionate, and positive, okay, it does not matter what you talk about. Your energy is infectious, right? And people want to hear more about it. And we're going to do an exercise to prove this. Okay? So what I'd like you to do is just pair off into twos, and I give you each 60 seconds. And I'd like you to speak about something that you can be authentic, passionate, and positive about that is not your family and not your school. Okay? So something else that you can speak APP about. Okay? Think about it. Ready? Go. Okay, let's bring it back. Okay, let's bring it back. Okay, so the first thing I always like to point out is you really have to yell to get people to stop talking. Why do you think that is?
Because they're passionate about it.
Exactly. Who will share what they learned from their partner? Who's willing to do that? Please.
Rob got a new saxophone mouthpiece, and he's loving it. He's playing so much that he has a fat lip from playing so much. He's excited.
Awesome. Thank you. Who else is willing to share? Please.
We talked about Long Island foods.
Oh.
Pizza, bagels,
Sandwiches.
and sandwiches.
Heroes, as we like to call them.
Heroes, yay!
Right on.
My friend Mark here said that honk is the best thing in the world today.
It is.
No.
What is honk? Did you learn what honk is?
Do you live locally?
I live in Needham.
Oh, yeah, you should know what honk is.
It's a street band festival that happens every Columbus Day weekend in Davis Square, Harvard Square.
International.
I missed that.
And it brings, musicians from New Orleans, Moscow, sometimes Rome.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome.
Somerville.
Anyone over here willing to share?
I will.
Yes.
Mud Flat Gallery is a very welcoming and community that Diana belongs to. It's like family.
Okay. So there is power to authenticity, passion, and positive feelings. Yes? Right? You want to talk about that stuff, you get excited about it, and honk had no idea, but now I'm kind of interested in what that is. We have had people Okay, when I've done these all over the country with this little exercise. I've had people come up to me after, like a day or two later, and say, I switched my kids' preschool because of that conversation. 60-second conversation got this woman to get on the phone, make an appointment with a different preschool, go in, have the tour, and shift her kids over. All right, now that's an extreme, okay? But, bless you, there is a power to being authentic, passionate, and positive. And as teachers at this school, and what we'll talk about with parents at this school, if you're feeling good about the school, it shouldn't be difficult to translate what you just did to be talking authentically, passionately, and positively about Fayerweather. Trust me, I can do it, and I've just been introduced to the community like a month and a half ago. Okay? So, as teachers here, if you can be out in the community, it doesn't matter what you're talking about, but speaking authentically, passionately, positively, that helps spread positive word of mouth and buzz out in the community. But now I want to talk about negative word of mouth, and it travels exponentially faster than positive word of mouth. And it's just important to know because a bad customer experience leads to negative word of mouth. Okay? And here's some data points. 75% of the general population say they tell a friend or family member when they've had a bad experience with a product or service. 75%, 3 out of 4 people will tell someone that they've had a bad experience with a product or service. That surpasses the 42% who say they always recommend a product or service they really like, and even the 67% who say they love telling people about something new they've learned. For whatever reason, and if there's a psychology person in the room, we can figure this out. People like to talk about the negative, all right? But it goes on. 25% of consumers say they're more likely to tell friends and family and coworkers about a bad experience with a product or service than a good one. So they've had a good experience, they've had a bad experience. 25% more will share the negative, not the positive. Okay, and this one always blows me away. 31% of loyal customers who are active promoters of brands are more likely to share a bad experience than a good one. All right, this is data from the 2011 study, but it's a great study, and this is like important data, right? This is pretty shocking. Yeah. But we talk about the negative. There's some allure to the negative. And I'm not suggesting in any way that we are going to stop negative talk, but maybe we can help people be more constructive with their negative feelings. So how do you handle negative word of mouth? I call it the day trader analogy. Okay, if you're a day trader, you're going to have a good day, a bad day, a good day, a bad day, a good day, a bad day. At the end of the year, if you're up 8-10% on the market, you've had a pretty good year and you're pretty happy. Yes? Your experience as teachers, moms and dads and students, you're all going to have good days and bad days. You're going to have a great interaction with a student, a not so great interaction with a student. A great interaction with your supervisor, a not so great interaction with your supervisor. At the end of the day, do you like working at Fayerweather, and do you believe in what you're doing? If the answer is yes, that's what needs to go out in the community, and that's what we're going to talk about with parents as well. It's not to say that we shouldn't talk about things that are troubling us or things that are upsetting us. We should certainly do that, but we're going to be constructive about that. But at the end of the day, right, we want that positive stuff going out. Something like, yeah, you know, I had a really frustrating experience with my child's math teacher last week. And, you know, I talked to them, and he called me back, and we talked it through. But I got to tell you, overall, I love the school. And that was just a blip on the radar screen. That's what we want people talking. Because you're never going to be all positive. There's always going to be this.
You would be suspicious of it if you were.
Precisely.
To be all positive.
Right. It's not. Right. It's just not realistic. Right. We've talked about this. Be a good listener, acknowledge the concern, and refer them to the appropriate person. Right. Nothing worse than being in like this little downward spiral where if you hear something and help diffuse it, it's almost as if you're tacitly endorsing it. Right? So if you're hearing something negative, and we talk about this with parents, like it's very easy to jump on and be like, let's go down the spiral. But let's be constructive. Is there something that we can do? Have you talked to the teacher about this yet? No. You haven't. Let's talk to the teacher about this first. If you talk to Ed, you know, have we gone through the proper channels to try to solve this? Remember, people like to talk about the negative, right? So we want to help them turn it into a positive. Be positive always, be honest and authentic, and never mislead. Should I tell my story that I told about that or not? Too long? Too long. All right. Stick around after, it's a good one. Use personal anecdotes, use your resources as they're available. Act quickly, time is not on your side, and speak like a human, avoid those canned responses, right? Let them know there's nothing more frustrating than that. Yes?
I think it's also important, though, the type of interactions that we have with parents can often catch us off guard because you can get a parent that comes in with this like, oh, did you know that this social thing happened? And it can be like something major. Or there's, my child is not happy with math for the last weeks. They've been complaining about X, Y, or Z. And you want to act quickly, but it's also okay to say, like, I need to talk to, somebody about that.
But that is taking action immediately, right?
Yeah.
So that's
I think
the point,
it's
but you're
important
right.
to just remember to give yourself permission that you don't have to know the answer.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to know everything that happens in your classroom all the time. It's okay to say to a parent, like, whoa, I had no idea.
And I need to look into this,
yeah.
and I'm going to get back to you in 24 hours.
Right.
Great.
I mean, as
That's
a parent,
perfect.
I would much rather think that the teacher didn't know that there was a bad social thing going on, and
Right.
and then didn't do anything about it. So I think it's okay to say,
Let me figure this out, and I'm going to investigate.
Right.
And then what do? What do I use? Clue. Close the loop. Circle back with that family. Let them know. Offer a real apology or don't apologize at all. Right? We heard the difference between a real apology and one that's not so real. Offer to make it right. Do not get into a fight. Take a deep breath. Keep the discussion open. And one thing that I love to do, involve the affected party in the fix. Okay? Listen, you clearly have insight into what is going on with this issue. I would love to sit down with you and just pick your brain. Okay? Then they feel like they're a part of the solution, that you're listening to them. And if they don't want to do it, if they say, well, it's kind of your deal to deal with, okay, fair enough then. But at least you've made that offer to engage them in that conversation. Okay? It's a very easy way of winning someone over to say, all right, I hear you. Let's see if we can figure this out together. Right? Has anyone seen this video, United Breaks Guitars? Okay. Here's the interesting thing. I presented this out in LA in April, and it was at 12 million views, and now, several months later, it's at 14 million views. Here's what happened. This band, Sons of Maxwell, went to a gig on a United Airlines flight. When they arrived, all of their equipment was broken. They could not play the gig. They complained to United. They did not like United's response, so they wrote a song about it. And they posted it on YouTube. And now, several years later, this has been out there for a long time, but seriously, in like 4 or 5 months, it's gone up 2 more million views. It's incredible. 14 million people have now seen United Breaks Guitars. United is not safe with our luggage. Okay, that's the message here. They actually wrote 2 more songs because they didn't like either of the responses they got from United. Now, that's an extreme example, okay? But the message is, in today's world, negative word of mouth, and we know that people like to talk more about the negative than the positive, it travels exponentially faster, and there's vehicles to help it travel exponentially faster, okay? So if we can avoid it as best we can, it's helpful. All right, so as a teacher, I hear you, Dan, I got it. What are some things that we can be thinking about? Be the impetus for positive word of mouth. Okay, just think about what you can do to delight your families, your kids. Remember that every interaction matters. Make every day a good day. It's something that we talk about in missions all the time. Every day is a good day, right? You come in with a smile on your face, even if you're not feeling like wearing that smile. Right? But the kids pick up on that. The parents pick up on that. Make a good first impression. My dad always said to me, you have one chance to make a first impression. And it's always stuck with me. It's very true. So whether that's on the phone, via email, or in person, like if you're sending out a welcome letter at the start of the school year, have 5 people proof it to make sure you don't have grammatical errors and typos. You have one chance as a teacher to make that first impression. One example. All right, but just think about that when you're communicating with parents. Communicate, return phone calls and emails immediately. I don't know if you guys have something like this in place, but a lot of schools do. A lot of schools ask their faculty to at least acknowledge the email or the voicemail within 24 hours to say, hey, I got it, I'm going to work on it, and here's what I'm going to get back to you. Okay? But there's nothing worse than like leaving a message at your doctor's office and not getting a call back. Right? It's important to you. I need to get that call back. At least let them know that you're working on it, even if you don't have the answer. right? It's again closing that loop. There you go, close the loop. Solve problems as best you can. I urge you to put on out-of-office responses if you're going to be even out for an afternoon. That way, if a parent's trying to reach you about something important that's maybe time sensitive, and they get that quick auto response, they'll know they need to talk to somebody else. We like to say there are no buts. Instead, use yes and. It shows you're listening, affirming, and acknowledging what the person is saying. So, I hear what you're saying, but is a lot different than I hear what you're saying, and also, right, it acknowledges that's smart. I get what you're saying. In addition to that, we can look at it this way. It's just the juxtaposition. Say thank you. It's such a simple thing, but saying thank you goes such a long way in all of our lives. Right? Someone does something, even the most mundane thing. A thank you is meaningful. This is from wordofmouth.org. 10 things that you can do to improve customer service, and this is the second to last slide, I promise. When in doubt, be nice. Always say thank you. Commit random acts of wow. Follow up, or in our lingo, kloop. Make a list of top 10 cringe items to fix sooner rather than later. Right? So around our school, thinking about what are those things when you might not notice anymore, but what is a prospective family noticing when they're walking through the school? Define what it means to love the product and do more of that. Find the customers that need extra attention and deliver it. So there's going to be people who need that extra attention. If you can kind of engage, I know it's overwhelming, but if you can engage them and make them feel more connected, you're going to win them over. Try thinking about it from the customer's point of view. It's a really hard thing to do, but if you can take a minute after you read an email to say, okay, that was a little biting. Let me see if I can think about how they're thinking about this before I respond. Just take that deep breath. If you don't know, say so. I don't like it doesn't have to respond fast, but if you don't know, say so. You don't have to have an answer to everything. You can say, you know what, that's a fantastic question. I have no idea the answer, but I know how I can find out that answer. So let me get back to you tomorrow with that. And then have lots of ways for customers to contact you. Okay, so I know they have email, they can call you by phone. I wouldn't give out your cell number, so they're texting you. Do not do that. It's a hard thing. Once that goes out, you can't get it back. You can and will make a difference. Commit yourself to doing one exceptional act of customer service every day. 175 school days on average, 50 or so staff members. That's 8,750 acts of exceptional customer service per year. It's not a lot. Commit to doing one a day. Go one extra step every day, and you're going to make an enormous difference in the life of the school. You're already doing a fantastic job. This was just to kind of bring it back up to the surface, maybe have you think about things in a different way, and I hope that you found it useful. So thanks for your time.